Ladies and gentlemen, sit down, grab some snacks, and get ready to have your mind blown because you're watching the ups and downs of Nicolas Cage.
Yes, thank you, hello, and welcome to the ups and downs of Nicolas Cage, where every week we take a look at the best and the worst that Nicolas Cage has to offer. As always, I'm your host, Logan Mock, here to take you on this journey. And today is a Friday, which means we're looking at one of Nicolas Cage's lesser-rated films. Today we're looking at 2018's Looking Glass. Looking Glass was released in 2018, directed by Tim Hunter, written by Jerry Rapp. It made $76,338 on an unknown budget. I looked in so many places and I could find nothing, and that is never a good sign. The film follows Nicolas Cage, who he and his wife recently purchased a motel to try and escape their past. But once Nicolas Cage discovers a secret tunnel that allows him to see into one of the rooms in his motel, he unlocks a treasure trove of dark secrets and hidden mysteries. The film is so disappointing. I read about it, and it seemed interesting. I remember seeing a trailer for this a long time ago, and I thought it looked promising. I thought it would be a nice mystery suspense film, sort of like Murder on the Orient Express. Like, there's a ton of people, there's a murder, and a secret passage, and Nicolas Cage has to figure it out before something happens. And at the start, the film does do a really good job of building suspense and action. It builds up a good atmosphere of intrigue, but it just dissipates so fast. It builds up to a certain point, and at that point you do expect something shocking or strange to happen, and then the film will continue. But it builds up to full suspensefulness, then it holds for around an hour and 20 minutes, and then the movie ends. And that is the case with a lot of these lower-rated Nicolas Cage films, unfortunately, because they all have potential. If they were given the proper budget or the proper director, proper writer, they could be really interesting, really well acclaimed films, but they just can't follow through. They build stuff up and then they just let it all come crashing down instead of moving on with it. The first part of the movie, when Nicolas Cage and his wife are moving in and the first people start to arrive, that first part I think is incredible. There are two really standout parts. One of them is the coloring. Their motel is in the middle of a desert, and so it's sun dried out. There's orange, there's red, but it's very faded. It makes you feel like it's in the middle of nowhere, it's in the middle of the desert. It does a great job. And the coloring with the signs and everything, it's filled with neon signs that are blue or orange or green or red, and they are so strikingly different than the rest of its background, the rest of its setting, that it really draws your eye and it looks interesting. It has that sort of aesthetic that other films have, and it looked good, really, and that's hard to do. It's hard to make a film that the production design is good and the setting and all of that looks good, but the coloring, if it's completely washed out, gray and black, then it has to have some sort of meaning. In the Wonder Woman movie, on Themyscira, it's all colorful and it's all because like they're all happy, they're all having a good old time. But when she goes to London, it's all bleak and drab, and that's because they're all depressed because they're in the middle of World War One. And I think that the coloring of your film can have a massive impact on it. It can add a sense of, it can add an extra layer, another polishing touch on top of it. And the first part of the movie does an incredible job at this. It makes you feel like, I don't know, it looks good, really, is all I'm saying about this. And it does look ominous. It does look different. It draws your attention, and they use that coloring for the room that most of the movie takes place in. That's where all the secret is around. And they use blue to show that it's so different, that's like where the main focus is. And if they had kept doing that for the rest of the film, it would have been really good, but they couldn't follow through with it, and that is one of the disappointments. Another really good thing is the production design. We don't know exactly when the movie takes place. We assume it's sometime modern, but we're never explicitly told. And you think it's modern times because we see modern cars, we see like pickup trucks, we see those kind of cars. But other cars look like they're from the 70s or the 80s. Like they're older, they're of that era. And that alone isn't really enough to, confuse the time. But the hotel itself is designed like it was from the 60s or 70s. There's all the neon lights, the signs are of that time. There's weird hanging lamps and mirrors that all look like that time. And it does a really good job of adding another sense of being unsettled from the film, because you can't even take comfort in the fact that what the year is. Like the motel is separated from the rest of the world in that sense, and they feel cut off from the rest of the world. And that's just like another layer of suspense and of intrigue that they've added. Like they built so much up to have a really, maybe not Oscar-winning or going down as the greatest of all time, but a good movie. It could have been one of the classic 2010s mystery movies, 2010 mystery murder movies. It could have stood out for years to come as one of the best movies from this decade, I think, if it was given a proper script and they followed through on all of their suspense building. I think this could have been one of the most noteworthy films of the decade. But they build so much up and they let it all crash down. And it's so disappointing once you get to the part where you realize that nothing else is going to come of what they've created. That what you're seeing is what you're getting. What these characters are doing is what they're going to be doing. When that part hits, that's when the film really, really drops off for me. And that's all I can say, really, without going into spoilers. So after an ad break, I'll go into the spoiler territory.
Are you interested in making your own podcast but don't know where to start? Use Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast there is. It has the tools to allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will automatically share your podcast to Spotify, Apple Music, and more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and most importantly, it's 100% free. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
So the film starts off with Nicolas Cage and his wife going to their new desert motel that they got off of Craigslist. We see through flashbacks that their child died. So we can add this to the suspiciously large pile of movies where Nicolas Cage is related to a child's death in the start of a movie. His wife talks about peeing for a bit, a little awkward, and then they arrive. They call the manager, the old manager of the motel, and he just instructs them to, clean up a bit. I left you all the numbers for the utilities, for the vendors, the cleaning people, and it's your motel now. And they begin to open it up. They start opening the pool. They look in the rooms and see that they're all identical, with the exception of room number 10. And this is what I was talking about earlier. The cinematography and the coloring of all of this, like how bland everything looks compared to like the jumping out of the lights and the jumping out of the light in room 10 is really well done, and it adds to the sense of mystery. Like, it's so monotonous, but what's with this one special room? What particular interest will this room have in the coming film? And the fact that they go nowhere with it is just so disappointing. So they start to clean up a bit, and then they get their first customer. She is a lady, and she takes room 10. In the earlier of the film, we find out that there was a regular customer named Tommy who would always get room 10 for some lady friends that weren't his wife, and he would always choose room 10. And that adds something, like why does he want to be in room 10 so badly, and why does everyone else as well? Like, what's the whole secret of room 10? Another interesting possibility that is so poorly explained and, is disappointing. Nicolas Cage is cleaning out this private room that was locked off with a chain, and he finds, bum bum bum, a secret tunnel. He crawls through it. There's some good shots of him crawling through it, like showing how central it is to the hotel and to the film by having it be the center, and it stays fixed and Nicolas Cage is moving through it. A good shot that is overdone by the end of the film. Nicolas Cage follows the path up to room 10. There is a one-way or two-way mirror. I think it's stupid that the glass that looks like a mirror on one side but you can see through the other side can be called a two-way and a one-way mirror. That's nothing to do with the film. I just think it's kind of stupid. And he sees Tommy and one of his lady friends. They're dancing, they're having a good time. And we're looking through the titular looking glass. I gotta say, for a movie called The Looking Glass, there sure isn't a whole lot of looking glass going on. There's a lot of glass and a lot of looking happening, but a sad amount of looking glass is in this movie. Really disappointing. The movie sort of panders on for a bit of the usual maintenance of the hotel. Nicolas Cage has a room where, or he has a dream